When the letter bearing her father's name was discovered, the town of Brackenford changed overnight. The fog seemed to hang thicker, the silence deeper, and every whispered conversation began the same way. Why would a father send a message like that? For weeks, the letter sat sealed inside the constable's office, guarded like a relic. The ink, the same deep red used in the first, had not faded. It read, "Deliver the message," or "I will. S.W. Whitmore." To most, it was just a few cryptic words. But to Inspector Felix Grant, it was the key to unlocking what had haunted Brackenford since Clara Whitmore vanished. Because this letter wasn't written to her father. It was written by him. Inspector Grant arrived in Brackenford under a veil of skepticism. He was known for his precision, his detachment, a man who trusted data more than instinct. He reviewed the original case file in silence. The letters, the missing lantern, the satchel found by the river. Then he turned to Constable Edwin Harrow and asked only one question. Who benefits from her disappearance? Harrow had no answer. He'd spent months chasing shadows, a jealous admirer, a stranger from a moor, even a postman. But every trail led back to the same point, the Whitmore family. Grant requested an interview with Samuel Whitmore, Clara's father. The man arrived at the station quietly, his shoulders stooped, his face pale from sleepless nights. He carried with him a cane and an air of dignity that felt almost rehearsed. Grant began gently. "When was the last time you saw your daughter?" Samuel looked at his hands. "That evening. She said she'd be home before the bells." "And did she seem frightened? Nervous?" He hesitated, just long enough for Grant to notice. "No, just tired." Then Grant placed the telegram on the table, the one signed S.W. Whitmore. The old man's face drained of color. This is not mine," he said. "I swear it." Grant leaned forward. "Then who wrote it?" Samuel's answer came softly. "Someone who wanted you to think I did." That night, Grant and Harrow searched the Whitmore home, a modest stone cottage filled with books, portraits, and a lingering scent of pipe smoke. In Clara's small upstairs room, beneath loose floorboards, they found something extraordinary. A bundle of sealed letters, tied with twine and wrapped in linen. The handwriting was unmistakable, Clara's. Most were drafts of telegraph messages never sent, fragments of thoughts and fears she had committed to paper. But one letter stood out, the ink fresh, the edges crisp. It was addressed not to her father, but to Inspector Harrow. Grant opened it carefully. "If you're reading this, I have failed to stop what I fear. Someone in this town watches me, not for who I am, but for what I've seen." Below the writing, there was a single name, smudged but legible. J. Harrow. Constable Harrow froze. "That's my brother," he whispered. James Harrow, the older brother of Constable Edwin, had left Brackenford years ago under uneasy circumstances. He'd worked as a clerk for the town's telegraph office before Clara replaced him, dismissed for inappropriate conduct. Grant's mind began assembling the pattern. The telegraph office, the red ink, the letters. Who would know Clara's handwriting? Who had access to communication lines and postmarks? Only someone inside the telegraph system itself. Grant ordered an immediate inquiry into James Harrow's whereabouts. The trail led them north to Manchester, a bustling industrial city filled with smoke and anonymity. There, they found him working under a false name in a postal depot. When questioned, James denied everything. He claimed not to have seen Clara since leaving Brackenford, but when shown the first letter, "Father, I must leave at once," his hand trembled ever so slightly. Grant noticed. He ordered a handwriting analysis, a primitive but revealing process of comparison by stroke and angle. The results were damning. The handwriting matched James Harrow's, not perfectly, but unmistakably enough. The letters from a missing had been forged. But forgery alone didn't explain Clara's disappearance. Grant returned to the stone bridge, the last place she was seen. There among the moss and the mud, he noticed the same iron ring where the rope had once been tied. The water below was calm now, the winter current slow. Using grappling hooks, they dredged the area once more. At first, nothing surfaced but stones and debris. Then, as dawn broke across the horizon, The hook caught on something soft cloth. They pulled it up together. A woman's shawl, pale blue, frayed at the edges. The same one Clara had worn the night she vanished. Inside the folds of fabric, a small metal locket had been sewn, containing a miniature portrait of Samuel Whitmore, and, beside it, a folded scrap of paper. On that paper were 6 words written in Clara's handwriting. He wasn't the man I feared. Grant's mind raced. The forged letters, the hidden drafts, the locket, it all pointed to a cover-up. But of what? Grant reconstructed the timeline. Clara's disappearance wasn't about love or jealousy. It was about information. In her work at the telegraph office, she had access to private communications, messages sent between businessmen, landowners, and local officials. Among the recovered drafts in her satchel, one stood out. A message from the mayor's office concerning a land fraud scheme, properties purchased under false names to defraud the parish. And the clerk who had managed those records before her? James Harrow. Clara had discovered the fraud. She had confronted him, and for that, she vanished. Grant confronted James a second time, presenting the evidence piece by piece, the letters, the ink, the telegrams. At first, James denied it all. Then, quietly, he said, "She should have stayed quiet. I only meant to scare her." His eyes flickered with guilt, or perhaps pride. The river was never supposed to take her. James was arrested and transported back to Brackenford. But before he could stand trial, he was found dead in his cell, an apparent suicide. He left behind no note, no confession. The townsfolk never learned the full truth. Some believed Samuel Whitmore had killed his daughter to hide shame. Others thought the real culprit had escaped justice entirely. But Inspector Grant knew better. He returned to the bridge one final time, watching the water flow beneath. The cold wind carried the faint echo of a woman's laughter, or perhaps just the sound of the river itself. He dropped the recovered locket into the current and whispered, "For what you uncovered, Miss Whitmore, the truth is yours now." In the years that followed, the letter case became a study in forensic investigation. It was the first documented instance in Brackenford of forged communication used to conceal a crime, a method that would later become known as psychological misdirection. Constable Harrow resigned from the force shortly after his brother's death. He was never seen in Brackenford again. Samuel Whitmore lived to old age, never speaking publicly of the case. Some said he visited the bridge every November, lighting a single lantern by the water, a tribute to the daughter who never came home. As for Inspector Grant, he recorded the case in meticulous detail, his final note reading, "Evil hides not in the dark alleys, but in the handwriting of those who believe they are clever enough to rewrite the truth." And perhaps that's why this story endures. Not because of the horror of what was done, but because of the quiet persistence of those who refuse to let silence win. Clara Whitmore's case remains closed, but unsatisfied, a mystery half-solved, half-whispered through the fog. Even today, locals claim that on certain winter nights, you can still see a faint lantern flickering by the old bridge. And if you listen closely, the rustle of paper in the wind. A reminder that the truth, once written, never really disappears. This was Trace Crime Files. Subscribe for more stories where truth is stranger than fiction, and justice is never as simple as it seems.